We want to start with, acknowledging the unceded territory of the Musqueam and Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh peoples whose beautiful land we made this film on. Land acknowledgements are really complicated. It feels really strange if it's not followed up with accountability and action and relationship and with the communities that we're acknowledging. So yeah, it was a wonderful process being able to make this film on this beautiful land that all three nations have an ongoing, rich relationship with. Okay. On the heels of the missing and murdered Indigenous women's inquiry, it is overwhelmingly clear that Canada is not a safe place for Indigenous women, trans, two-spirit, non-binary, and queer people. And this film is about that, but it's about so much more. It was made with nothing but love and a desire to honor the strength, beauty, and courage of Indigenous women. And it's so wonderful to be able to share this film with audiences here at VIFF. And this film was a community effort. It couldn't have been made without the generosity and support of our family and our friends, and also our deeply committed cast and crew. And we wanted to specifically thank our Canadian producers, Lori Lazinski and Tyler Hagen, for believing in our vision every step of the way and fighting so hard to get it made. And we also wanted to thank Shane Point of Musqueam, Ruth Alfred, who is Wakiwak, and for starting things off right as elders who we consulted with. We also want to thank Sarah Robinson, who did a Indigenous history and cultural competency training for our full cast and crew. It really helped start us off on the right foot. And we also want to thank the Coastal Wolf Pack of Musqueam for starting our process off with a beautiful dance at a feast we held for everybody. So we wanted to just make sure those people know that we really appreciated what they started for us. And I don't know what to
Thank you all for being here tonight. Obviously, this is our hometown premiere, and we're so happy to be here. This film is so much about Vancouver. It's such a Vancouver story, an East Van story about two women who live their lives here and are struggling against many things. So we just wanted to say, again, thank you for being here. We're so excited to hear what you think of the film. I have a few housekeeping things. We just really want to thank Curtis and the VIFF programming team for having us. We want to thank all of our funders, all of the people that supported us, Telefilm, CBC Breaking Barriers, the Sami Film Institute, the Norwegian Film Institute, is it Telefilm? Telefilm was great. Harold Greenberg Fund, Creative BC, the Sundance Institute, Lagerling Group, Women in Film LA, and Tell a Story. Thank you, Lori. And also our equipment houses that really supported us: Keslow, Mel's, Vantage, William F. White's, and so many more people I'm probably forgetting. But thank you all for believing in this film and not allowing us, but sort of supporting the way that we wanted to make it and making sure that it was told in a way that was true to our vision. So thank you. We also, before the screening starts, just wanted to have a bit of a disclaimer that this film does deal with issues of violence against women, and so we just wanted to urge you to take care of yourselves during and after the screening. And
we would like to introduce one of the Indigenous youth who worked on our film. She was our editing mentee. We had a lot of Indigenous youth working in all the key departments, and they made our film absolute magic. Anyway, we want to welcome Tristan. She offered to sing us a song to start us off on the right foot. So welcome, Tristan Grey Eyes.
I'm very certain there are many questions in the audience, so I'll just ask a couple. But my understanding, and maybe you can share more about it, is that this comes from a very, very personal experience for you. And maybe you can speak about that and how it began to kind of take shape as a film, and then as a collaborative piece, not only with Kathleen, but with everyone who's involved with the piece.
So thank you for that. That was amazing. The film is inspired by an experience that I had in East Vancouver, where we all live. That was very similar to this experience, and that sort of collision that I had with this complete stranger really, shook me to the core, and I carried that story with me for a number of years, not knowing what to do with it, and then ultimately decided I wanted to honor her story and women like her through film. And most of my experience as a director has been with documentary. I have a fair amount of experience with narrative fiction as an actor, but not so much directing. And I love the process of collaboration. I find it so enriching to work with other creatives, especially women. And so I knew that, wanting to tell a story in real time, capturing all of those challenges that exist in the silence and those in-between moments would be a very, extremely challenging technical feat. And so Kathleen has been a friend for a number of years, and I deeply respect her work. Never Steady, Never Still, I think is one of the best Canadian films ever made. If you haven't seen it, please do so. And so yeah, I reached out to Kathleen and asked if she wanted to co-write and co-direct and make this, I don't know what to even call it, a movie? I guess it's a movie, yeah, it's film.
And once you decided to shoot in real time, and there's obviously such a tight geography to the film and the circuit that they travel, did you have to adjust your writing, knowing that you're going to be shooting in these, like this morning at a session, you described it as filming in chunks rather than scenes, but kind of like writing to know where they would arrive at a certain point in time, and then also allowing that space for the breaths, for the moments, the quiet pauses, and the tentative beginnings?
Yeah, the most complicated sort of variable was always the cap scenes, getting from one location to another, because you don't know what's going to, maybe there's going to be an accident or traffic or all these things. So we did obviously a ton of rehearsing and timed out that journey, and planned our route the shortest way possible with the least amount of speed bumps and potholes. But yeah, we had to sort of, I think we added some dialogue to that cap scene that Violet does such a wonderful job of talking about her parents there. Yeah, but that was really the only, I think, dialogue adjustment was in that scene, was to add a bit of length to it.
Yeah. We shot the film on 16 millimeter, and it was continuous action. There were a lot of reasons for that, not so much just to do the one take thing, but more so to enrich the performance, so that especially Violet, who's never acted before, believe it or not. Coming from a theater background, I was really inspired by the idea of bringing that sort of like cohesive experience of performing the narrative from beginning to end in theater into film. And so that was one of the reasons that we decided to do this sort of one take idea. So there's 12 camera transitions throughout, because a film mag can only last up to 11 minutes. So we had to choreograph these specific spots where someone in our camera department would have a camera pre-rolling and then swap it out, but the action would be continuous. So we did it once a day over 5 days.
And just sort to jump onto that a little bit, that also meant that our cinematographer, Norm Lee, who was operating the camera, had to be extremely rehearsed, but also very spontaneous in terms of keeping an eye out for moments, like when to pan down to Violet, with her nacho chip on her leg, like those moments add so much to it, I think. And so that was really just Norm's natural instinct and ability to find that.
And also, I just wanted to add a quick shout out. I think Jennifer Nelson is here somewhere, our first AD. It's such a spectacular job. Jennifer deserves all the awards for everything. It was like an impossible feat that everybody told us we'd never be able to do it, but somehow we did it. So thank you.
Actually, could we have our crew and our cast who are here tonight just stand up?
Give a little wave, stand up.
Violet, do you want to talk about how you became part of the project, and so the first conversations you had with Maya and Kathleen about the film and how they wanted to make it, what they thought you could bring to it?
Maya and I have a friend in common, and Chantel, she messaged me and was like, can you let other girls know about this role that are Indigenous, 16 to 22, and if you want to go for it as well, you can. I was like, no, I'm good, I'll just let others know. And then I told my mom about it, and she's like, well, why not? And I was like, because acting's not my thing. And she's like, how do you know? I was like, I don't. She's like, have you done it? And I was like, no. And then she's like, well, it's either a yes or a no that you're gonna get, so why don't you just go for it? And she wouldn't leave me alone about it, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll go for it. And after each audition, it started to like grow on me. I started to enjoy acting more, and like I also really connected to the character as well, the person as well, because my mom was also in an abusive relationship, and I witnessed it as well. So she's no longer in it, but it gave me more of an understanding of Rosie, and I was also in foster care for a little bit of my childhood, and that also helped me understand Rosie more.
Do we have questions up here in the audience?
I was just curious, within the one take, if there was anything that happened that you did not expect and you guys kept in, or just curious about those one take things.
No, it went totally smoothly every single time.
There was the good and the bad, I guess. There was lots of really beautiful moments of spontaneity and improv from the cast. But we did have one, it was actually pretty funny.
Horseradish?
No, the window. Maya went into the bathroom scene, and the window was open, and there was like, people were making noise outside.
Well, yeah, people were making noise and I was worried about the sound, so I actually closed the window. And then, I think it was Jordan on our...
Jordan here.
Where is he? There he is. He panicked because the window wasn't supposed to be closed.
So you see, as we're filming, Maya's on the toilet, and suddenly you see this like big hand come out. So we had to cut.
There was also a horseradish and beet sauce that ended up in my underwear. Oh, and I actually went pee that one time.
Not on camera.
Not on camera, but it happened. It was our first go. I just kind of whisper into the microphone, like, Ingar, I'm actually going to pee.
Well, this is the world you have entered into. This is what it means to follow a career in acting. When in the process did you make the decision to kind of open the film up and make it, I want to say, a community effort as well, in terms of bringing on a mentorship group to work with the film and use it as an opportunity to kind of build out young Indigenous filmmakers' experience as well?
Well, very early on, I mean, the whole process of making this film was very experimental. We wanted to have it be very collaborative and community-based and not reflect this like toxic hierarchy that often exists in the film world. And we also wanted to obviously hire as many Indigenous key crew members, but there's not enough of us working in those key departments like sound, editing, all of those things, and it's hard to get everybody booked at the same time because everybody's busy, and so we wanted to work on building capacity here on the West Coast, and so that is how we ended up doing this Indigenous Youth Mentorship Project, where we hired 11 Indigenous youth to work in all of the key departments in a collaborative capacity with the head of each department. And I think it really grounded our process in something very real. There were a lot of other things we did too, but do you want to say anything about that?
Sorry, we've had a long day, but yeah, we also, so another thing we tried to do was make sure that our non-Indigenous crew had a certain level of understanding right from the get-go. So we brought in Sarah Robinson, who's a lawyer, or a law student, law student from, she's one of our mentees' sister, but she's a really wonderful teacher and consultant, and she has this really amazing way of bringing people together in a room and getting them to sort of really visualize the history. So it was sort of like a history of
colonialism in Canada. Yeah, and we knowing we were going to have all of these Indigenous youth on set, especially, we wanted to make sure that we were creating like the most supportive, nurturing environment possible, and not, enacting harm on them by inevitably having, like Tyler said earlier, people say stupid shit. Like having, ignorance kind of lead to some painful moments, and so we wanted to make sure that our crew was well-versed in understanding of the fact that this content is very real, especially in the lives of Indigenous people and our youth who've experienced, any of this, all of this.
Another question up here? There's one right down up in front. Microphone's coming down the stairs.
First of all, don't give me a microphone. Just kidding. I just wanted to say how I really, really enjoyed the Native humor in this film. Yeah. And because I've witnessed your work, and you've talked a lot about not doing trauma porn for Indigenous filmmaking and storytelling. Can you tell us why it's so important to have that element in storytelling for Indigenous creatives in all different genres. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that was something we thought about at every step of the process, was how to not sort of create this or replicate these stories of trauma that you often see Indigenous people framed within like a narrative of trauma and victimization and all of that. But Rosie's character was none of those things. She was just, like the young woman I met that day, a very strong, beautiful, loving human being who just happened to be stuck in these really terrible circumstances. And so we were constantly thinking about ways to sort of like flip that conventional cliche of Indigenous people being victims and constantly like framed within trauma, and that's sort of like the only way we can be seen. So we wanted to not do that.
And one thing that really helped to hold us accountable to that, I think, was we did a table read with several young women who had been through foster care, Indigenous women, really smart, beautiful, intelligent women who gave us some great feedback on the script, and I think really informed our understanding of Rosie's character in a new, much bigger way. So that was really, really helpful to the process.
Hello. Thank you very much for this really beautiful and thought-provoking film. I am very curious, though, about how Joni Mitchell came into it and why that choice of record was in that key moment. And also, further to that, how Norwegian financing also came into the picture.
Like Isla, my ancestry is, I'm also Blackfoot and I'm Sami, and the Sami people are indigenous to Scandinavia, and so I have Norwegian citizenship and Canadian citizenship, and so we kind of thought early on, like, hey, let's just see if we can do a co-production. So that's how that happened, and the International Sami Film Institute was actually the first to give us any money, yeah. And Joni Mitchell kind of just organically came into, I think we were just listening to it while we were writing or something. Joni Mitchell is of Sami ancestry, and she was born in Fort Macleod, Alberta, which is on Blackfoot territory. And I grew up listening to Joni Mitchell, and the Blue album is just like, it's a really special place in my heart. And then that song, Little Green, is about her giving her daughter up for adoption. And so maybe it's a little on the nose, but whatever. And so we wrote her a letter, because she'd never licensed it before. And we like to believe she read the letter. I don't know if she actually did. But she gave us permission, or the record label did.
The film is so rooted in Vancouver and in this place and the issues that inform it. But it premiered in Berlin, and it's played a couple of other, at least one other international film festival to date. And what do foreign audiences tend to fixate with on the film? And it's worth noting as well, the film has just been picked up for U.S. distribution by Ava DuVernay's. Classic rule that the specificity always makes things more universal. And so for us here in this room, we can see the city reflected back to us and the people of the city reflected back to us. But do you have a sense of what those other audiences see in the film that maybe speaks to them about their experience?
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, Kate. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, we were nervous about that going into Germany. We weren't sure how much of the sort of subtle complications that people would understand, but what we found was obviously domestic violence is universal, and the women's experience is universal, and so they were a very engaged audience. They were much more serious. We didn't get as many laughs.
No. It was so nice tonight. Kind of like caught off guard.
Yeah, but they asked really engaged questions yeah, I'm not sure, yeah, what else to say.
There was one man who thought that Violet was actually pregnant.
Yeah,
Was it a boy?
he thought it was a documentary. But one thing that we haven't gotten in Canada, actually, which we got a lot in Germany, was the wallet thing.
Oh yeah, everybody asked about the wallet in Germany. Nobody's asked about the wallet.
Yeah, everyone wants to know why didn't she give the wallet back, or why did she keep the wallet?
Please explain yourself. I've had months to figure this out.
There was one person that just he didn't really understand, even though I explained to him that she needed the money for like food. And he's like, but I don't understand why. Why won't she give it back? And I was like, she needs food for her baby. Like, she needs money to get that food. And like, she needs to feed him. And I guess he still didn't understand.
And for the two of you, did the making of this film change how you think you'll approach future work?
Absolutely. I mean, it was my first narrative feature, so it was all new, and we kind of went into this process with a very open mind, knowing that it was all going to be experimental. And you know, I think we created a really extraordinary film, and we actually pulled off what we wanted to do, but it was more about the process of how we could do it differently, how we could work together in a way that actually honored the spirit of the film and that loving relationship between these two women. So I really hope that I can continue to, you know, not replicate this process exactly every time, but continue to really just build something new and not replicate these like toxic forms of whatever that exists in the film industry.
Yeah. Yeah, I would echo that. I think this is definitely a life-changing experience. And in terms of the process was such a reward in itself. And a lot of the times when you're making films and you go into a community and you're asking so many favors and you sort of like trample their lawns and destroy their outhouses, which we did on the last film. But you just don't feel good after. And I think with this process, it's like, oh, if you actually engage with community and you actually try and find new ways of working together in a more equal playing field, it can just be such a much more loving and beautiful experience. So definitely try and bring it forward in new ways to each project.
Well, thank you so much for being here to share this beautiful film with us tonight.